Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're going to tell you about Phoebe Handsjuk.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you get the new episodes whenever they drop. And tell your friends as always.
Now, because this is our 50th episode, hey, we decided to do a giveaway. If you are not on our Facebook page already, you should be. We will post the details there. We will ask some questions, and the first 10 followers to get the answers right will go into a drawing where we will pick 2 winners, and each will win a $25 Amazon gift card. We just want to say thank you to all of our supporters for helping grow the podcast. So head on over there. The last day to enter the giveaway is Saturday, June 1st. We have another Australian one, and it is another case of what really happened. I've known about this case for years now, and I was really hoping that there would be some type of resolution for the family, but they are still fighting for answers, and I don't know if they'll ever get them, sadly. So I'm bringing it back up again. Some will say that there has been a resolution and that the case is closed, and we'll see what you think by the end of this one. 24-year-old Phoebe lived in the 12th floor of a luxury high-rise known as the Valencia Apartments in Melbourne, Australia, with her 43-year-old boyfriend, Anthony Ant Hampel. Phoebe had 2 brothers. Her mom was a veterinary nurse and her dad was a psychiatrist. And the family was close by all accounts. Even as a young girl, she liked physical challenges like rock climbing and hiking. As an adult, she still loved climbing and also martial arts. As a teenager, the family said she started hanging out with the wrong crowd and was using alcohol, speed, ecstasy, and smoking weed. She dated a teacher at one time who was almost twice her age, and dating older men became something she would do her whole life.
She met Ant when she was working as a receptionist at the hair salon that he was a regular customer at.
Yeah. And a friend of Phoebe said that no one thought the relationship would be a serious one, saying, "I thought Phoebe was going to shag him and flick him." But it was only around 6 months into the relationship that Phoebe moved into his apartment. She was described as laid back, cheeky, loved painting, and what was described as creative clutter. But Ant was meticulous. He always wanted the apartment so clean and put together that you wouldn't know anyone lived there, according to the housekeeper. And Phoebe was seen a psychologist who said Phoebe talked about how Ant would put her down and make her feel stupid. She said Phoebe was potentially suicidal, but it was more like she talked about suicide when recovering from a binge drinking incident or when having relationship issues. Phoebe had an issue with binge drinking, but also was known to have a low tolerance for alcohol. She was notoriously uncoordinated after 2 drinks. Ant referred to her drinking problem as the monster. Her family said she drank too much during her and Ant's relationship because Ant was cut from a different cloth. He ran an events management company, so he always had social events to go to, and his circle consisted of older, well-to-do, attractive people, and that made Phoebe insecure. So they fought a lot.
They loved each other, but it was getting to the point where that just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
She had left him 4 times in the last 6 weeks of her life, but she always came back.
She did. He would always talk her back in. So now that we have a little background, here's what happened. On Thursday, December 2nd, 2010, a concierge at the apartment went into the refuse room, which is the trash room, on the ground floor of the apartment building. At 7:09 p.m., they found Phoebe's body, basically blocking the single door. She was wearing a gray singlet, so a tank top, and blue jeans with a wide black leather belt, no shoes, and no socks. The jeans were unbuttoned and were down around her knees. And the belt was through the first 2 belt loops on the jeans, but not through the last 3. There was blood everywhere, in a pattern that looked like she had pulled herself around the room trying to find a way out, but there was only that one door, and it was locked from the outside. There were 2 highly noticeable wounds that could have caused all the bleeding. There was a deep cut on her hip, and her right foot was almost completely severed. It was only connected to her leg by the tendon. She would have passed away between 5 to 10 minutes of receiving the foot injury due to blood loss. And in case you're wondering how she got into this room, and some may already know, it was through the trash chute. Each floor had a trash chute, so they didn't have to constantly go up and down the stairs or elevators carrying stinky trash. It all fell down the chute and into this refuse room. The chute came out of the ceiling and had a carousel under it with spaces for 5 wheelie bins. And these wheelie bins, when I looked at the pictures, they look kind of like what we have as trash cans that we take out and set by the curb, but they're like double that size. One of the bins was on the floor near where Phoebe was found.
The injury to her foot was caused by the compactor blades.
Right. So a sensor in the chute registers when something comes down so that it will compact the trash. And with her apartment being on the 12th floor, that meant it would have been a 120-foot drop to that refuse room. Her sunglasses were also found with her in the room, so it is believed that she was wearing them on her head. Her family said she only wore her sunglasses when she was going outside, so she wasn't one of those super cool kids that wear them indoors. And police arrived at around 7:20 and pretty much immediately ruled it a suicide and therefore investigated accordingly. They didn't allow paramedics to even make sure that she had no pulse. Blood was found in the elevator and in the parking garage. Neither of these areas were taped off until much later. Why? If she went down the trash chute into the refuse room, how would blood get in the elevator and in the parking garage? And shortly after 8 p.m., Ant approached the police asking what was going on. Once he found out that they had found a body, he told them that he had come home from work and his girlfriend was gone. He described her tattoos, piercings, and distinguishing features of Phoebe, so they were able to identify her that way. And now they have a better idea on where to look to figure out what happened.
On the 12th floor, they found blood on the door to the trash chute, but when they dusted the actual chute for prints, nothing usable was found. So how did they rule that a suicide?
Yeah.
Whenever there's blood in the parking garage and elevator, obviously it started there. And then
someone tracked it there.
Was it footprints of blood?
No, they never said how much it was. They never said where it was. Like, was it on the buttons? Was it on the door? Was it on the floor? Like, what? They never said because they didn't investigate it. They just said, oh, there's blood there. They never
said like pool of blood or...
Nope. They just said blood was found. Traces of blood. Yeah. So it's not going to make sense, and it's going to continue to not make sense because even here, what you just said, the door to that room that had the trash chute in it, there was blood on that door. But there wasn't any blood on the trash chute door, like the actual thing you would open to put the trash in. And there were no fingerprints on the handle showing that someone had opened it. Like it had been, some say it was wiped clean. Some say it was like this stainless steel kind of material, so it wouldn't leave good prints that they could use.
Mm-hmm.
But because there was no good investigation, we don't know exactly what that meant.
Okay.
Or like a brushed stainless. I can't remember how they said that. Now, inside the apartment, blood was found on the door trim and on the mouse and keyboard of the shared computer her and Aunt used. The blood on the door trim was sampled and tested positive for being Phoebe's. No other blood was tested. And there was a shrine on the bed of pictures of Phoebe, Aunt, and their dog Yoshi. There was a ripped cushion that Aunt believed Yoshi had damaged. A hair straightener was plugged in the bathroom and on. There were 2 wine glasses on the table, broken glass on the floor, nonsensical writing on some Post-it notes. Phoebe's bag, keys, and wallet were on the kitchen counter with her phone charger in her bag, like she was going somewhere and would need to take her charger. Aunt told them that she had been taking sleeping pills, and based on the glasses on the counter, he smelled them and said she'd been drinking vodka. Police wrote it up as Phoebe being incoherent from alcohol and drugs, and that she had broke a glass and cut herself cleaning it up. She then took the trash bag to the chute and dumped it. And then, because of her love for climbing and adventure, or possibly her suicidal thoughts, went into the chute, feet first, arms by her sides, and died. So what you're telling me is that she barely picked up a couple of shards of glass and had to immediately throw them away? Because remember, there's still broken glass on the floor, so she didn't completely clean it up. And then she was in such a hurry to throw them away that she stopped partway through, but made time to stop and use the computer before she went to the trash chute. It make sense.
She had to look up how to clean up glass.
I guess so. I don't know how any of this made sense to them. It's so dumb.
Or how do you get blood out of vodka?
Can I use vodka to remove blood stains? Maybe that's what it was. And those 2 glasses on the counter, they never dusted them for prints. They don't know who the second glass belonged to.
Of course not, because they already ruled it as a suicide.
Exactly. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Aunt said that one of the trash bags in the trash room looked like the kind that they used. So what was in the trash bag?
They never looked.
Figures.
They never looked to verify that it was their trash bag. They never looked to see if maybe the trash in the apartment was cleared out, like you put a new trash bag in. They didn't look into it at all, not even the slightest bit.
So, was that him like, if we lived in an apartment complex and I went through our trash in a dumpster and then, somebody asked me, I'm like, oh yeah, that looks like the trash bags that I use. Of course it does, because I threw it in the fucking dumpster.
Well, right. You
live in an apartment complex. Obviously, you're going to get some of your trash bags in the trash compactor.
Well, what they're saying is that that's why she was in the trash room to begin with, is she was throwing stuff away. Well, prove that she threw something away.
Or was there something about that trash bag?
I don't know. And how do you know that's yours and not the person on the 5th floor? Maybe they used the same kind.
Maybe he ordered his from a special trash bag
Maybe
company.
They were embroidered.
Yes.
He is bougie.
Maybe they said Ant's bags.
Ant's trash. Ant is trash.
Yeah. Ant's garbage.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was enough for them, so they didn't verify anything, of course. And the trash chute itself is a red flag. It's the only thing on the wall. Nothing around it. It was more than a meter off the floor and is 37 centimeters by 22 centimeters. That's roughly 3¼ feet off the floor. And it's 14.5 inches by 8.66 inches. This is according to the inquest documents and Google Converter. Even if she climbed and loved to climb, if she was so incoherent from the alcohol and drugs, what kind of coordination could she have to be able to Spider-Man herself up this wall and get into a chute that's described as being slightly bigger than a laptop, all while leaving no prints on the wall, the door, or the inside of the chute?
Well, first of all, how big was she?
She was tiny.
Exactly. So, more than likely, she probably could have fit it. Plus,
we'll talk about that, actually.
Plus, with it being 3 foot.
That's it. Here's your picture.
Yeah. So, with it being 3 foot off the corner, that's about waist height.
Right. About waist height.
On an average height person.
Yes.
So, that ain't nothing for somebody just to kind of open the chute and kind of bend over into it.
But she didn't go head down. She went feet first, remember? Feet first, arms by her sides.
Okay. So, she could still lop her legs over the top of it and still do it with somewhat ease.
Somewhat ease?
Yep. It's just like you getting on the counter.
I get on the counter all the time.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you put one leg up and you slide your butt right on up there.
Right. But if I'm opening the door, because the door opened from bottom to top.
And I guarantee
so if I open that.
I guarantee whenever they open the door, it opens all the way to the wall. So that means it props it all the way up to the wall.
Probably, but there's no prints on it. So how could she do all that without leaving any prints?
And we'll post a picture. That way you guys can see what I'm looking at.
100%. I'm making him look at it right now.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mention that, because Phoebe's grandfather, and under investigation, did 2 reenactments. The first was shortly after Phoebe's death, when her grandfather, a retired detective, and some of her friends that were her size went to the apartment building and tried to see if this was possible. Then he, and under investigation, built a replica of the chute and had a couple of models who are also the same size as Phoebe try to get into it in a better environment, like a safer environment. One was not able to get her shoulders to fit in the chute. Like, the rest of her body would go in, but her shoulders were too wide. The other struggled, but made it into the chute finally. She had to brace herself on the wall the whole time, leaving prints all over the wall. And she could only fit inside with her arms over her head. Like, they couldn't be beside her because that would have made it too wide. Now, the police said she went in arms to her sides. Yeah. I will say that the second reenactment with the TV show looked a little different from the way the apartment chute was set up. The reenactment chute was actually flat against the wall, whereas this one kind of protrudes out at an angle. And theirs opened the opposite way of the crime scene photo showing the one from the apartment. So remember I said this one opens from bottom to top. The one that they did opened from top to bottom. So as the model was trying to go in, it was squishing her head. And then whenever she did get in there and her arms were over her head, it was squished, slapped back on her fingers. So that was a little different. I just want to make sure you see that if you do your own research on this case, as I'm not too sure how these things would change the way that, the reenactment could be legit or not. But a tight fit inside the chute is a tight fit regardless. That was the same size. And it couldn't have happened the way the cops were saying it, regardless.
Yeah. And with her friends reenact, her friends could have been the same size, but had broader shoulders.
Yeah, one did.
And I mean, or maybe had a little bit wider hips.
That's true too.
Because I mean, it doesn't mean that, they didn't wear the same size clothes.
No, I mean, their build was the same. Yeah. Yeah. Same height, same weight, same physical feature. I mean, they all look like the same body type.
I don't know, but you got to take full measurements in order to crack that one.
There's no way they had Phoebe's full measurements, I don't think. So either way, but they did show that it is possible. It just was not possible to do it the way the cops said it happened. Besides the fact that why would she even do it that way? Come on.
She's adventurous. They said
that's what they kept saying. Well, she likes to climb. Yeah. Okay, that doesn't mean you want to climb in a trash chute that's on the 12th floor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big difference. And like I said, she went down feet first and her jeans were around her knees. Don't forget that either. That means that the direction that she was going wouldn't have caused the jeans to come down in the fall.
So what if she was down in the chute? She was trying to pull herself back up.
That could have happened.
And her jeans came
unbuttoned and came down to her knees.
Who knows?
Who knows? I'll give you that. Who knows?
How many of these women walk around now with their jeans unbuttoned?
That's true. But she had on her belt too. Like they were supposed to stay up. It's not like they were just loose.
I know. I'm just saying.
I know.
Just throwing stuff
Devil's
out there.
advocate. I gotcha. And I don't see that they ever reported what condition the jeans were in. She had a big gash on her hip. So was there a big gash on the jeans? Because the police believed that she actually pulled the jeans down before she got into the chute, which would make 0 sense. Another theory from the police was that in that 5 to 10 minutes before she died, that she had pulled her own pants down to assess her injuries while crawling around and trying to find the door in a dark room. But I can't see how you would try to assess your injuries when you can't even see. There's no light in there.
I don't make any damn sense.
I know.
Here, let me pull my pants down and look at the injuries. Oh, well, it's too dark in here. Let me climb into this fucking little bitty ass chute. Maybe there's some light in there.
No, I mean that there was no light in the room where she fell, not in the room where she went in the chute.
Oh.
Because they were saying she might have been.
Her pants are still down inside the chute.
They think. They don't know.
Or maybe that's the room they're talking about. Maybe she was checking for injuries inside the chute.
This is why there's no room in that chute to check.
You don't know what happened.
I see the chute though, but I don't understand why they didn't check the jeans. Like if she had a big gash on her hip,
because they already ruled it as a suicide.
Oh yeah, well, I guess I shouldn't say. I don't know why.
When they go in and they say suicide, it's over. I mean, it's a whole different set of rules. They don't look into
anything.
Yeah, basically they figure out the why and
whether it makes sense or not.
Yeah, and then they make it make sense.
Bro, we're on the same mindset. Now, the autopsy showed that her blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit in Australia, which is 0.16. And she did have Stilnox in her system, which is like Ambien, but it was at a therapeutic level. Phoebe had never been prescribed Stilnox, but Aunt was. She had multiple prescription drugs in her system. We mentioned her 2 biggest injuries, but there was obviously various scratches, cuts, and bruises all over her. They specifically noted a circular bruise on her right arm, left wrist, and neck, saying this indicated an altercation. But of course, no investigation into that was made, which blows my mind too, because there were obvious signs in the apartment that a fight could have taken place in there. Something could have taken place in there.
Yeah. But like I said, when their minds are made up,
yeah,
they make the evidence fit the story.
Right.
And the rest is just ignored.
Very true. And apparently the coroner said that no one else was involved in her death and ruled it an accident. Time of death also blows my mind. Since no one on scene that night was allowed to touch her body before it was taken out of the building, the time of death is between 12:03 and 7:02 p.m. Huh?
Like 12:03
in the afternoon. So noon to 7, basically.
Oh, okay.
So 7 hours. I guess
that's what the ME said or whatever.
Right. The coroner. Mm-hmm.
Coroner.
Yep. And I mean, I can't believe that they couldn't narrow that down any closer with blood coagulation, rigor mortis, liver temp. I mean, there's so many different ways to check. It's just ridiculous to me that you can't get it better than a 7-hour time frame. Now, what led to this? Let's go back. The last sighting of Phoebe that day is on the apartment CCTV footage. The fire alarm went off, and her and Yoshi were seen leaving the building with other occupants. And this was not an actual fire, so at 11:50, she returns to the lobby where she talks to some of the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. She took the elevator to the 12th floor. The fire alarm went off again at 6:05 p.m., but there's no footage obtained to see if Phoebe or anyone left the building at that time. And I have two problems here. How many false alarms does this building have? Was it not odd to anyone that there was 2 that day? And they report that this building has a key card system, so you use it to enter the car park, which is the parking garage, or the building, and to use the elevator, which will only take you to your own floor. And this is all logged. But oddly enough, the system was on the fritz that day, so its logs were hit or miss.
Also, when the fire alarms go off, all the stairwell doors unlock, so you don't need a key card to get into the building or to get on any of the floors.
Right, so because it's a safety hazard, everything has to completely unlock. So anybody can travel to whatever floor they want. Anybody can come and go out of the building, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did I miss something? Who's Yoshi?
Yoshi's their dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I missed that.
According to Aunt, they had dinner with another couple on Monday, which led to a fight. When they got home, he went to bed, and an hour later, he realized that she had left. He called her 27 times in 1 hour before he finally got to talk to her without her hanging up. She was out with her friend Brendan. Brendan said she talked about moving back to Malakuta to be near her family, which tracks because she had a job opportunity at a golf club there, according to her grandma. So there were signs that she was serious about leaving Aunt for good. She spent the night at her mom's house, and on Tuesday, she skipped work and was drinking and taking ecstasy. And I may have missed it in the inquest docs, but I didn't see where they found ecstasy in her system. Aunt said she got home around 9 p.m., but the key logs say it was 12:29. Wednesday, he left for work at 8:11 a.m., and she stayed home from work again. Phoebe sent a text at 10:30 that morning to not just him. It was a group text and included some of her family members. She said, "Hi, family. I'm in bed about to sleep. When I wake, I will transform into the most incredible human being you've ever seen. Not, I will go to hospital. It's much safer there, and I hear the special is tomato soup. Delicious. Nutritious. I love you all very much, but not enough to send an individual text. Sorry, but it's time to sleep, and I must be on my way. Merrily, merrily, life is but a dream." Aunt thought nothing of this. He said that this was a sign of her telling her family that she was at home and safe. But her grandma called him to go check on her. At 12:40, according to Aunt, he got home and checked on her. And there's been no mention of him swiping his card, but remember that the logs were wonky. She told him that she had taken 2 sleeping pills and was going to sleep. He took the sleeping pill bottle with him when he went back to work, but he brought it home with him that night, so she had access to them again.
The housekeeper saw her that day and said that she seemed hungover, but otherwise fine.
Right, she was just her normal Phoebe self. Aunt said he came home after work, made her dinner, she took a bath, and she went back to bed. Now, a point of anxiety for her was finances. She was supposed to pay Aunt $150 a week in rent. She didn't pay when she wasn't working. He texted her once saying, "Also, don't forget you have bills to pay to me, and I'm not loaning you any more money. So be sure to go to work." He would, however, pay for their trips. So on Wednesday night, he said that they had talked about a trip to Paris that they were taking on December 21st, and she was very excited. Thursday morning, he left for work and said Phoebe and Yoshi were still asleep. She had 2 cell phones, an old Nokia that she kept for contacts that were in it, and an iPhone that she used as her regular phone. Aunt originally said that he took the iPhone to the repair shop on Wednesday because it was broken. When police asked how she could have sent that group text later that morning if her phone was in the shop, he remembered that it must have been Thursday then. The shop owner has no memory of exactly when the phone was dropped off. At least one police officer and her dad both say that they saw her iPhone in the apartment the night she died. Her phone records later showed that she received texts at 1:57, 4:31, and 8:16 that day, and all were read. So I guess the repair shop is just nosy?
Aunt said that he tried to call her that day, but he didn't try the landline. Why not? He took her cell phone to the shop that morning. How was he trying to call her?
Yeah. How did you try to call her? Oh, I tried to call her and check on her. Okay, what were you calling? Her cell phone? The one you took to the shop?
So what was the other phone for?
The Nokia, she said she just kept because it had contacts in it.
But didn't work?
Yeah, she didn't have any service to it. She just would charge it and then she'd be able to get a contact off of it if she needed it.
She's playing a little snake game.
That's what it really was. We know that. So that's just another thing that doesn't make sense. He got home from work and we already talked about the state the apartment was found in. His key card shows he entered the parking garage at 6:09 p.m. So he comes in, finds the broken glass, the shrine, lit candles, and blood on the computer. What did he do? Well, he used the computer first. And that's how he noticed that there was blood on it. And it wasn't a lot, so I guess it wasn't enough to deter him or cause any concern. He said her Gmail account was left open. Sure it was. And they were supposed to go to dinner that night with her dad for his birthday, so Aunt called him. Now, what is weird is that Aunt had never called her dad before. Her dad had called her that night to say that he was running late, which he got no answer because, remember, her phone is in the shop. But about 30 seconds after he hung up is when Aunt called him. Coincidence? Speculation is he called to see if Phoebe had left without him, with candles lit, a straight iron on, her bag and wallet on the counter. Come on. He smokes a cigarette, drinks a beer, and calls and orders food from the restaurant that they were supposed to be meeting her dad at for dinner. And he only ordered food for himself. It was the food delivery guy who told him about all the cops downstairs, and that is when Aunt went down and talked to them. He hadn't looked for her. He didn't check to see if her bike was there. Nothing. And I've mentioned that the police immediately thought this was a suicide, so again, no real investigation or questioning as to why he didn't, have any concern. They did not pull CCTV footage, so that was all lost except for that first fire alarm that day. They didn't take a look at any of the electronics that were in the apartment. Her family did track down her phone at a repair shop a couple of weeks after her death and took it to the cops, but they quickly lost it. More weird stuff is that Aunt had made himself her next of kin. He had to give permission for her mom to claim her body. He did this so that he could file for a death benefit as Phoebe's partner, and his dad signed the declaration. He got $113,000, but after a few months of contemplation, he did eventually give that to her brothers. And this is another case where there were two funerals. The family had one, and Aunt had one at his yacht club.
They searched Aunt's phone 4 months later. Who knows what was deleted off this thing by then?
Yeah, 4 months. 4 months. And they also searched their shared iMac, and they had confiscated it 3 months after Phoebe's death, but didn't actually look at it until 2.5 years later. And this is all because Phoebe's family has pushed so hard, and still do. Phoebe's grandfather, remember, he's a detective. He is heavily involved while he's retired. But he knows something doesn't add up. What they found on the computer logs for that day, after she was last seen on CCTV footage, shows that there were 6 events that they can tell were not system issued, like updates and stuff. Those things can be logged and they can tell that the system did it. But there's 6 events that an actual person had to create. So there were GarageBand files created at 12:01 and 12:02, and then again at 6:19, 7:01, 7:39, and 7:40. The first 2 would have been before Aunt came home at lunch, so it's likely that those were Phoebe. The others were immediately after Aunt got home from work. And they also saw that on October 19th, someone downloaded an application for release of body document under the Coroner's Act. They asked Aunt who downloaded it, and of course he has no idea. And that was good enough for them. Also on that day, a worker, or like a construction worker or contractor type worker, was on CCTV footage going up to the 12th floor, supposedly. But he was never looked into, so we don't know. So there was a possible stranger in the building, unaccounted for, and they didn't pull any other footage, so they don't see if they left or what they were doing there, nothing. And she was also failed by her psychologist. She called her, and the doctor was too busy, so she gave Phoebe some crisis line phone numbers and got off the phone. She didn't call anyone in the family to check on her. She didn't call any help herself, and she didn't follow up with Phoebe. She felt like Phoebe wasn't actively suicidal that day and that she was okay. And they didn't call a sleep expert into the inquest to advise on the effects of Ambien, so they weren't even digging too deep into their own theories of what could have happened if she was suicidal. I have to stop. I just have so many questions. And the sunglasses bother me. Okay, I'm not going to stop. The sunglasses bother me. If she only wore them when she was going outside, and she's wearing sunglasses during the first fire alarm evacuation, so we can see that that's true, why were they still in her head when she went down the chute? A theory of mine is that since the second fire alarm went off at 6:05 and Aunt got home around 6:09, could the alarm had gone off and she had put on her sunglasses, like stuck them up on her head, and was leashing up Yoshi when Aunt came in? Maybe they got into it. Maybe he puts her in the chute. We don't know. We don't know if people were evacuated again on that second alarm or if they were just like, oh, here we go again, and just kept doing what they were doing. But if they did evacuate, the floor would be empty of witnesses. Or if there was someone else who did it. Maybe they came in during the first alarm, did harm to Phoebe, put her in the chute, then pulled the alarm the second time to be able to leave without being detected.
And that's what makes these cases so hard. There wasn't enough of an investigation to get a better idea of what really happened. And, you know, we hear stories about, you know, like Ambien and stuff like that too.
All the time.
You know, like where people
drive cars,
not knowing whether they're up there cooking.
Yep.
Just doing just weird shit.
Right.
And everything. I mean,
and especially if you're drinking while they're in your system.
Yeah.
It makes it worse.
That makes it worse. I mean, you know, I take sleep pills, but Ambien, they asked me about that. I'm like, nope.
No thanks. That's a hard no.
Very hard no.
So this is why investigations are important, because not only just to prove what happened, but to disprove a bunch of things that could have happened. You know, you need to be able to check that list off and say, no, that couldn't have happened because of this. But they can't even do that. And there's a lot of information out there that the family has shared. So if you want to deep dive on this one, it is readily available. But there's one more death we need to mention, shed some light on, bring awareness to. On June 3rd of 2018, 25-year-old Bailey Schneider was laying on the couch watching Netflix with her dog. She was sad because she and her boyfriend had just broken up that morning. Now, Bailey was a part-time model, visual merchandiser, and was about to start training to be a dental assistant. She was very social and had a lot of friends. She did struggle with low self-esteem and anxiety, so just the year before, in 2017, her parents moved back to Melbourne to be close to her, and she moved in with them and her older brother. Just the night before, she told her parents that she was going to a barbecue with her boyfriend, who they had never met, but she actually went off to work her shift. She was secretly working as a spicy dancer from 7 to 1 a.m. She finished her shift and left around 1:30, going to a party. Friends say she spent the whole time text fighting with her boyfriend. Her mood got worse and worse as the night went on. She made it home around 8 a.m., and her parents came in a couple of hours later saying that they were going to run errands. She assured them that she was okay, and they left. Sometime after that, her brother saw her on the phone in the back garden and said she was visibly upset, but gestured to him that she was okay, so he went on about his business. A couple of hours later, the parents came home and found Bailey laying on the kitchen floor. She had one of the curtain ropes from her bedroom curtains wrapped so tightly around her neck that they had to cut it off with a knife. Her head was at an odd angle against the lower cabinet. They called paramedics and did CPR until they got there, but it was too late. And the questions started immediately. Her being on the floor of the kitchen would indicate that she had been standing there and fallen, but the cord was only around her neck, not attached to anything else on the other end that would have suspended her, and there was no suspension point in the area. Later, it will be said that there was a substance found on the rope that matched a substance from the top of the pantry door, but she was too short to be able to reach the top of that door, and there was no chair or anything there showing that she had stepped on anything to get the height that she needed. This was another one that was ruled a suicide immediately, with no investigation, so there's not a lot of clarifying information out there. There's not a lot of information, period. Meaning, we don't know if there was a cabinet there that she climbed on. Was she even found by the pantry door? Was that door open? There's just not enough information.
There was an open bottle of wine that was half gone. She had cocaine, antidepressants, and of course alcohol in her system.
Yes. So she was also under the influence. Her blood alcohol level was actually 3 times the limit in Australia, which was 0.16. Sound familiar? This isn't just linked because it's 2 different questionable suicides. They are also linked because both women died while dating Aunt Hampel. Aunt was now 51 years old and dating 25-year-old Bailey. He would say that their relationship wasn't serious, but they communicated an awful lot and had been on 2 vacations together. He said he was trying to help her improve her life by introducing her to veganism and teaching her about fine wine, while also trying to help her stop drinking in excess. What the fuck? He did not go to Bailey's memorial service. A lot of people wonder if these 2 cases are tied back to him, like if his involvement is more than they thought was, you know what I mean? It's very suspicious. A lot of people also wonder how he can be involved in 2 women who self-harm and neither one of them gets investigated. Maybe it's because his dad is a professor, but also a retired Supreme Court judge, and his stepmom is a county judge.
There it is.
I saved that one for the end.
Mm-hmm.
Remember I said his dad helped him get those documents to become Phoebe's benefactor, basically. So do with that what you will. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and he may well be. But if no one gives a shit about what happened to these women, their family will never know. You know what I mean?
Well, and the whole thing is like we know people that where their parents worked in the court, right, and they would continue to fuck up.
Because they could.
And because they could. And what would they do? Their parents would go and have a little talk with the police department or the court or whatever. And there they was. They'd get out and go right back to doing the shit again.
Like it never happened. No record of it happening.
No record of it. And I mean, they would go on for years doing this.
Yes.
Every damn time. I mean, it seemed like every week they was getting in trouble for something.
Yes. So it's something that we see everywhere. And I will leave you with this. In 2016, almost 6 years after Phoebe's death, a picture popped up on Facebook of Phoebe and another woman. It made headlines. The caption was, "In loving memory, I just stumbled across my favorite pic of beautiful Phoebe. I miss you, darling. You were a fragile little flower that no one watered. You and your family were let down by the justice system and those who represent it. I only hope that one day the truth will come out so they will have some peace." This post was made by Aunt's sister.
She knows. I was hoping that she's going to say like it was a picture of Phoebe and the other girl.
Nope, it's a picture of Phoebe and Aunt's sister.
Well.
Yeah.
So she knows what kind of shenanigans goes on in that house.
She was spreading some business, some family business, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that post was only up for 12 hours before it was removed.
Oh, yeah. Yes. No, I guarantee you the family saw it and they just went straight to cousin. And you get that damn photo off there.
Yes. And this is I guess you would call her the black sheep of the family. She's had her own run-ins with the law. And so they're like, she's not reliable. Don't pay attention to her. Oh, yeah. Look over here. Don't look over there. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. And that's where we're at. That's all we had for today. Be sure to check out the Facebook, like we said, for that giveaway.
Yes. Yep, because we did hit 50. 50 episodes finally. And then we did hit 1,000 downloads. But, of course, I think they changed it up on us where we have to have 1,000 downloads per month.
Oh, to monetize, yeah.
To monetize and all this other stuff. Now, we did set up a patrons. It's
a Podbean patron account. We thought it was Patreon, so we're working on Patreon.
Yeah, now we're fixing to start up a Patreon account. And basically what this does is like all the subscribers and stuff like that kind of helps us do what we do and, help us keep going. And, but there's like different tiers. So each tier gets a little bit better with the different benefits and everything.
Bonus content. We'll throw some bonus content in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And eventually I'm trying to talk her into doing some live videos and stuff. But
y'all don't want to see this. I got a face for radio, y'all. You don't want to see this. Okay.
But anyway.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health and suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255 or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org.
All right, well, that's it for this one. Catch us on the next one. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe, follow, hit the little bell. Ding, ding.
Bye.